What's up, folks? Glad to have you back. Quick heads up, this isn't a hit piece. I'm not out to drag a brand through the mud. I'm here to help you keep your wallet intact and your confidence solid going into 2025. Now, don't get it twisted. I respect the heritage. Glock GmbH, founded back in 1963 in Deutsch-Wagram, Austria, and their UTDs, base in Smyrna, Georgia. Those aren't just names. They've shaped modern carry culture. But let's be real. A legacy and a clean logo won't save you from a disappointing experience at the range or in a pinch. So, tonight, I'm breaking down 10 Glock pistols that look solid on paper, but fall short where it actually matters in hand feel, performance under pressure, and clocked reliability. We're diving into everything from theoretical design goals to real-world shortcomings, things like slide mass distribution, extractor angles, chamber pressure dynamics, and how certain frame sizes don't quite match up with the ammo they're supposed to run. I wanted the Glock 44 to be the perfect cheap ammo trainer .22 LR recoil. G19 ergonomics. Familiar controls. That's the sales pitch. The problem is .2. 2 rimfire is a finicky little beast. Variations in rim thickness. Priming compound and case metallurgy stack against a hybrid slide. Lightweight system. On a clean bench, the 44 feels right. The grip angle matches your service Glock. The trigger is close enough for reps. And the sight picture builds transferable muscle memory. On a dusty, real-life range day, you meet the gotcha's light strikes that pretend to be bad fundamentals, sluggish extraction when waxy lube meets a warm chamber, and a reciprocating mass that doesn't always respect underpowered bulk pack rounds. You can make it behave with premium .2, 2 LR, and obsessive cleanliness. But that defeats the budget trainer promise. The best gear builds confidence through repetition. The 44 too often builds hesitation as you clear stoppages and wonder whether it was you or the cartridge. I'm not calling it useless. I'm saying the margin for smooth function is narrow. If your training time is precious, you want a rimfire that eats anything, or a dry fire plan that mirrors your carry gun without gambling live fire reps on ammo roulette. The pitch behind the Glock 36 is easy to like, a single-stack .45 ACP that carries thin, points naturally, and answers the bigger hole argument without a brick on your belt. In hand, it does feel svelte, and the recoil impulse isn't abusive for a light .45. The trouble starts when stress meets sample variation. Extractors and feed geometry must be perfect in a narrow window, and when they aren't, you see the same ugly pattern. Spent cases that hang just long enough to stop the slide, magazines that should lock the slide open but miss the chance, and sporadic feed hesitations with certain hollow points. Individually, any pistol can hiccup. Collectively, these behaviors add psychological drag to a life-saving tool. You can throw parts at it, polish a feed ramp, trial different recoil springs, swap magazines, even ship the frame to a friendly armorer. But a defensive pistol should not ask you to gunsmith your trust. In a world where modern 9x19 loads punch above their historical weight, choosing a thin .45 that occasionally argues with gravity isn't the flex folks think it is. If you want carryable authority, pick a platform that demonstrates boring consistency across magazines and bullet profiles, not one that makes consistency a weekend project. The Glock 29 chambers 10mm auto, and that alone makes people grin. It's a legitimate backcountry tool, deep penetration on heavy hide, energy that keeps speaking after barriers, and a cartridge with the pedigree to end a bad wildlife day. But most of us aren't swatting claws. We're solving human-scale threats at human distances, often in poor light with elevated heart rates. In that context, the 29's virtues become trade-offs. Recoil is snappy in a short slide. The muzzle pops you off the front sight unless your grip is vice-like. And the ammunition cost keeps reps artificially low. Less practice amplifies heavy cartridge mistakes over gripping, milking the trigger, and staring at the blast instead of the sights. I'm not saying the 10mm mission is fake. I'm saying it's specific. If you live where bears do, the 29 makes operational sense with the right loads. If your daily route is grocery store, driveway, office, the same qualities become liabilities, reducing follow-up speed when fractions matter. When your use case is mostly urban or suburban, modern 9mm in a slightly larger, calmer gun often yields more hits, faster, with fewer excuses for skipping range day. I have affection for the Glock 26. In 1994, it answered a real need: minimize length while preserving capacity and duty gun reliability. Back then, compact meant short. Width was the tax everyone paid. Today's concealed carry landscape is different. We have slimline pistols with predictable triggers, optics-ready slides, and magazine systems that squeeze respectable capacity into less girth. That's why the 26 feels dated. It's short enough, sure, but thick enough to print through the wrong t-shirt. And the abbreviated grip forces you into pinky purgatory unless you extend the magazine, at which point you're carrying a stubbier brick with extra edges. Ergonomics isn't fashion, it's physics plus anatomy. And the 26's geometry asks you to compromise in places modern designs don't. If your holster drawer already holds a 26 and you shoot it well, I'm not telling you to retire a faithful partner. I'm saying the market evolved, and the baby Glock's superpower, capacity in a tiny length, no longer outweighs the penalty of thickness for many bodies, wardrobes, and daily movements where true concealment and comfort decide whether you carry at all. The .357 SIG era promised 357 Magnum-like speed in an autoloader, and the Glock 33 tried to stuff that promise into a subcompact. On paper, its clever, bottlenecked feeding can be slick. Velocity flattens your trajectory, and barrier performance pops. At the firing line, physics reclaims the microphone. A short slide accelerates and decelerates violently. A light frame offers less mass to soak the impulse, and the cartridge itself produces a dramatic pressure curve. The result is a little thunderclap in your hands, muzzle blast that startles new shooters, flash that taxes night vision, and a recoil signature that punishes sloppy grip fundamentals. None of that makes the round ineffective. It makes the platform unforgiving. Then comes the logistics boutique pricing for defensive loads, spotty shelf presence compared to 9x19, and the long-term question of how often you'll actually train with it. Pistols that make you dread practice quietly teach you to avoid practice. And that's the opposite of readiness. If you absolutely love .357 SIG, run it in a larger frame with more slide mass and sight radius, in a tiny package. You pay twice: first at the cash register, then in reduced confidence when speed and control matter more than raw muzzle energy. The engineering ambition behind .45 gap and the Glock 37. The idea was elegant .45 ACP-like performance in a shorter case, so you could build a smaller hand-friendly pistol without weird magazine geometry. The market shrugged. Ammunition makers never achieved the critical mass that keeps prices sane and shelf space predictable. And law enforcement adoption never scaled to the point where your local shop had a pallet to burn through. That leaves owners depending on periodic runs, online scavenger hunts, and the creeping anxiety that a change in job or family budget will starve your practice calendar. Handgun skill is perishable. Cartridges with uncertain supply turn good shooters into occasional optimists. The 37 isn't a bad firearm. It's a pistol married to a logistics problem. When an alternative exists that feeds on every corner of America, 9mm or standard, 45 ACP. Tying your defensive readiness to an orphan cartridge trades future flexibility for a theoretical grip advantage you can often solve with backstraps, stippling, or smarter ergonomics elsewhere. The Glock 21 should be a layup-proven .45 ACP ballistics, 13-round capacity, grip, duty pedigree. Many samples run flawlessly, but enough fail that veterans have a 2-word warning brass to face. When ejection geometry is off, empties don't kick to 4 o'clock, they pepper your brim or eyelid. That's more than uncomfortable. It undermines consistency. Flinches grow where burns start, and confidence erodes as you brace for the next tap on your glasses. Fixes exist: updated ejectors, extractors, magazines that change slide velocity, or factory service from Glock, Inc. in Smyrna, Georgia. A tiny plastic part can cure it. But buyers care about this. Some 21s are perfect. Some need homework, and you won't know which until you shoot it fast. In a world where 9mm duty pistols run like sewing machines, a full-size .45 must deliver boring ejection and bulletproof rhythm, or be replaced with a platform that doesn't make practice a blinking contest. When the .40 S&W and the Glock 22 defined serious, Agencies chased energy figures, accepted sharper recoil, and bet that more foot-pounds meant more stopping. Over time, better bullet design pulled 9mm forward, expanded reliably, penetrated to FBI targets, and did it with higher capacity, faster follow-ups, and lower training fatigue. Departments voted with holsters. The 22 still runs. It just asks you to pay an extra recoil and cost for returns modern 9mm already delivers. That matters when you're buying a personal pistol. Training volume wins fights long before caliber debates do. If your range budget goes further and your wrists hurt less, you'll show up more often, stack more good reps, and build the sort of confidence that survives adrenaline. Nostalgia is a feeling. Hit probability is a metric. Carry the metric. Now, this little guy is really special. The Glock 25 exists because of laws, not because of performance. In markets where civilians can't own military calibers, 380 ACP becomes the legal workaround, and the 25 answers that constraint with familiar ergonomics and operation. The problem is that legal compliance doesn't magically grant terminal performance. 380 can work with the right loads and placement, but you're living closer to the margin, especially through clothing or intermediate barriers. Add in reports of temperamental feeding, and the picture sharpens. This is a tool born to satisfy a statute, not a street in the United States, where GCA 1968 import points and domestic manufacturing realities shape what's sold. Buyers aren't trapped in that box. If you train a ton and manage recoil poorly, a mild cartridge has logic. Otherwise, the modern Micro 9 has erased most reasons to accept .380 compromises. When your defensive plan hinges on consistent expansion and adequate penetration from short barrels, starting with a marginal cartridge inside a compact frame forces you to be perfect when life is least forgiving. Think of the Glock 28 as the 25 squeezed for deeper concealment. Everything about the 25 that felt like a compromise gets intensified by less mass and shorter sight radius. A lighter slide cycles briskly. The grip asks more of your hands, and the already marginal .380 ACP has even less barrel to build speed. Yes, you can carry it where other pistols print. Yes, it can be shot well by someone who trains like it's a sport. But the average citizen doesn't live at a private range, and equipment that demands elite execution from ordinary people courts disappointment. I'll always defend the right to choose what you can conceal and control. I won't pretend this trade makes sense for most. If your mission is deep concealment at all costs, go in with eyes open. If your mission is everyday defense with fewer excuses, a slim 9x19 with thoughtful ergonomics gives you more forgiveness, more ammo options, and more reasons to practice happily instead of anxiously. I didn't make this list to dunk on a company with a real legacy. I made it to separate reputation from results in 2025. Patterns emerged: cartridges that don't match the job, frames that magnify recoil, slides that complicate extraction, and niche laws birthing niche models. None of that helps you at 2 a.m. When your heart rate spikes and you need a sight you can find and a trigger you can run without bargaining. Here's the bottom line. Pick tools that encourage training and reward imperfect humans with consistent function. That usually means modern 9mm compacts with sane recoil, clean ejection, and parts support from Glock, Inc. in Smyrna, Georgia, or any major maker with a similar footprint. If you own one of the pistols we covered and it runs, rock on. Prove it with reps. If you're shopping, buy the mission, not the myth. Hit subscribe. Drop your range experiences below, and I'll see y'all on the next one.